The world is anxiously awaiting a verdict in the trial of Derek Chauvin.
He's the former Minneapolis police officer charged with the murder of George Floyd. 12 jurors, 6 of them white, 6 black or multiracial, are starting deliberations. I spoke with some activists in the Valley to hear what they're hoping the verdict will be. Let's listen in.
Hoping for what I believe and hope that all Americans, and not even Americans, but the world is hoping for, and that's justice.
The outcome that we pray for is for Mr. Chauvin to be held criminally liable for the killing of Mr. George Floyd, not for manslaughter, but for second-degree murder.
I'm hoping to hear that he will be found guilty of murder. I think it's obvious to anybody who saw the video.
People around the world saw the disturbing video of George Floyd in his last moments of life. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin pressing his knee into Floyd's neck for what prosecutors say was about 9 minutes. Now the world braces for a verdict in Derek Chauvin's criminal trial. Pastor Gregory Bentley says the evidence should be overwhelming, but he still has doubts Chauvin will be convicted.
Oftentimes, what should happen and what does happen don't agree with one another.
Demonstrations erupted around the world and in Huntsville during the summer of 2020. People in the Tennessee Valley chimed into the calls for change and demanded local officials pay attention to inequities right here at home.
We've had several rallies against police brutality and asking for the mayor of Huntsville and the city council to enact police reform. It's nationwide. It's not just here locally, not just in Minneapolis. It's nationwide.
When things are not done properly, there needs to be accountability.
As Black Americans, we have loved America even when America didn't love us. And this is yet another opportunity for America to live up to its professed ideals. And we hope for the best, but, we plan for the worst because too often that has been our experience.